soon as you're born, they make you feel small.
Post-World War II America was a shifting landscape of social and economic unrest. Throughout the 1960s and 70s, established ethnic, gender, and socioeconomic norms were challenged by well-organized groups whose planning and media savvy brought national attention to their causes. Farm laborers had always had a hard lot in America, and unionization hadn't caught on as firmly for them as it had in the manufacturing sector. Migrant workers moving from farm to farm as different growing seasons came and went were especially poor, uneducated, and underrepresented. At particular disadvantage were Spanish-speaking laborers, as they were unable to effectively negotiate pay, housing, and labor conditions. In the mid-1950s and early 60s, former migrant worker and Arizona native Cesar Chavez began organizing farm laborers. He demanded better pay and working conditions, and led strikes to achieve those ends. He extended the reach of his United Farm Workers Union by coordinating with other unions and making tactful use of the media to gain public support. His work and the work of other Chicano organizers improved the lives of millions and cultivated a sense of pride in the Latino community. The long-running battle for women's rights escalated in the 60s and 70s. Inequality in employment opportunities and wages, lack of legal recognition for women, and access to reproductive medical care were among the aims of feminists. In 1963, a woman earned 59 cents for every dollar earned by a man. A married woman could not apply for credit without her husband's permission. Spousal rape was not a legally recognized offense, and women were dying of complications from amateur abortions. Women like Gloria Steinem and Betty Friedan pushed for equality, organizing protests and rallies across America. A handful of legislative measures did pass, though the Equal Rights Amendment, which would set women equal to men in the United States Constitution, did not pass, ironically in large part because of one woman, Phyllis Schlafly. Schlafly was the poster child for right-wing Christian conservatives, and her outspoken anti-feminism halted the ERA's momentum. Another movement that blossomed in this time was for gay rights. Beat culture in the 1950s had given some measure of popular support for homosexuals, but it wasn't until violence broke out in 1969 that their struggles came to national attention. In Greenwich Village, New York, police raided a bar known for serving gay clientele and hosting drag shows. Rioting broke out, and onlookers and cameras watched as police clashed with bar patrons and neighborhood residents. This event gave gay rights advocates a platform from which to advance their calls for equal protection from discrimination and for access to marriage benefits. This led to the passing of protective legislation throughout the 1970s, and eventually the public election of openly gay politicians for the first time in American history.
I blew George and Harvey's brains out with my sex gun! I fought the law and I won!
The Chicano, women's rights, and gay rights movements all struggled against the same white, male Christian power structure. As with every other instance of oppression in America, the Bible was used to justify the taking of others' rights. Migrant workers were told they ought to appreciate what they had and to view their poverty as godliness. Women had an ordained role as wife and childbearer and were to be subservient to men. And homosexuals were just as evil as wearing clothes made of two different kinds of thread, or working on a Sunday, or planting two different crops side by side, or eating shellfish, or being a fig tree. These battles are far from over. Politicians are still making efforts to disenfranchise Latino voters and to block legal immigration. Women still make roughly 80% of what men make, and have to fight for reproductive control or even access to medicine. And in 33 states, gay couples still cannot marry. You can, however, wear